guys? This is Jay and welcome back to the YouTube channel, and this is the final episode for the future. I think it's episode 6, Meet Day Recap. I think this is kind of the culmination of everything that we've done for the last 6 months rolled into one. Obviously we didn't have many other pieces of film because different things in my life, but we're here now. Meet is done. I think we're recording this about almost 4 weeks post meet, but want to give a good recap of everything that we went through before, during, and after the meet. So here we are. So let's talk about last meet. Last meet was back on May 1st, and going to that meet, it was a very different environment for me. I hadn't competed in powerlifting. This is the first time I've ever done it, and it was about an hour away from where we're at now, and I was pretty nervous. Like I said, I prepped by myself, and I still was training at the gym I train at now, but no coach, and all nutrition was done by myself. And day of the meet, it was nerve-wracking, I will say the least. But when I look at what we did and what we accomplished that day, we went 6 for 9, and what that means is 6 good lifts. On the squat, we squatted 309, 314, both were successful lifts. And the third lift was at 330, which we didn't get due to depth. And I understood that going into this prep here, and I said, okay, we're going to try to adjust for that. We're going to make sure we count for that going forward. On the bench press, we went 1 for 3. I believe I hit 209, and then I made an overzealous jump to 225 for my second attempt, and it didn't work out for my second attempt or my third attempt. So that was one of the things I wanted to correct from going into this prep. And on deadlifts for that last meet, we started out at 396, 419, and 441. 441 that day was kind of a scary thing for me because I had tweaked my back during my bench press during that meet. So once I felt I got 396, 419 moved well, we decided to say go for it and hit a PR that day. And I was very thrilled. You can probably see it in a clip that may be showing here, but I was just super excited from that day. And I wanted to kind of build upon that going into this prep for this meet back in November. So yeah, it was a good day. It told me a lot about how to train, what I needed to do, things that went right, things that went wrong. And we were able to kind of put those things together going into this prep. So for this particular prep going into the 513 Madtree Brewery Classic, there were a couple things I needed to change up. First, doing things on my own, while yes, it's good to kind of see yourself from one perspective, I know I needed to get someone to help guide me. So at this point, I actually hired a coach. He's one of the co-owners at the gym I go to, 513 Strength. He was a real good help to me. He actually programmed me and gave me instant feedback to be able to implement a training almost immediately, and always someone to communicate with in case things were going well one day, things were not going well another day, and being able to adjust as needed. Another thing that I implemented during this prep was actually tracking my food. I would probably say around 80-85% of the food I actually ate during this prep was tracked. Towards the end, it was a little bit shaky just because of timing and everything else that's going on in my life. But I definitely tried to be more mindful about what I put in my body in order to fuel training going into the meet. And I think a big part of that too, what actually I feel helped me out even more for this meet compared to the last one. Instead of me training 5 days a week, I actually dropped it down to 4 days a week, which helped me not only recover, but also provide more intensity in the gym and being able to train to my full effectiveness, especially at this point where I'm kind of late to the game when it comes to powerlifting, but still being able to give my all when it comes to the meet. So lots of good things that changed and things that I learned from the past prep going into this prep. And I really was just super excited just to train, and even starting way earlier than most other people would for a prep kind of got me into the mindset of how to work through variations, different squat techniques, bench techniques, deadlift techniques, just to make sure I'm able to give my all on the day of the meet. So during this prep, I think it was kind of a joyous time for me because back in May, we had started prep way beforehand. around, I can't remember which specific date it was, but I knew in May that my wife and I, we were expecting our first kid. And to say that I was elated is probably the biggest understatement in the world. And I think many people, if you're watching this, if you're a parent, you understand, like, knowing that you're starting a family or you already have a family, you bring another one into your family, it's just a surreal feeling. And when I was able to get the news that we were having a kid, I was just thrilled. So it was kind of provided me an extra purpose for why I was training. I think there were so many different reasons why I wanted to go into this prep and be able to step on the platform. I mean, we talked about goals of 500-pound deadlifts, just totaling a PR on an overall meet. But then when you add the fact that you're having a kid, it's like you want to be able to show the kid, like, hey, this is what your dad does. He's not just like this kind of corny, goofy person that just likes like make jokes all the time. He actually can lift heavy things, and it's kind of cool to see people support him. So I think for me, it was super exciting to know that, hey, this is something you'll be able to show your kid one day. And then obviously throughout the prep, that's on my mind. We found out more about gender, have a son. I think it's amazing because then it's like, now I can have my son follow my footsteps. I think it's pretty cool. So obviously leading up to August, things are still going pretty well. And then obviously in September, going for the 20-week checkup. And unfortunately things took a turn that neither myself nor my wife were expecting. We unfortunately couldn't find a heartbeat at one point, and we ended up losing them. And it was, to say it was devastating, it was probably the biggest understatement of my life. I mean, you go from probably the happiest that you have been to probably some of the lowest points that you've been. But what I will say throughout this process, you will be surprised at where you see strength in moments of being low. And when you're watching this, my wife, I know you're going to, when I say she is a symbol of strength, it's not an understatement by any stretch of the imagination. There were some decisions that we needed to make as a family. And to be quite honest with you, the decision that I would have made, looking back at it, would have been the wrong decision. She made a very good choice in terms of us being able to see our son, being able to spend time with him, and hold him before, unfortunately, he had to go away. And it hurt. It really, really hurt to know that joy that you were able to try to bring into the world, and to have someone that you were looking to not necessarily mold in your same footsteps, but to just say, hey, your dad's kind of cool, and here's what he does, and to kind of have that taken away from you, it's tough. And it took a toll on me, like quite a bit of a toll. Obviously, we could talk about the physical as much as anyone else, but from the mental and emotional standpoint, I kind of went to a depression again. I mean, when you have so many different hopes and then it shatters, it's just like you just think about those things over and over again. And at one point, I never thought about getting out of prepping for this competition because of what happened to our son. But what happened was, it kind of shifted my mindset in terms of obviously having this footage for my son to now I want to be able to do this meet for him. And I'm not gonna lie, it was a very tough road coming back. And I think what made it more manageable, because I can't use the word easy because it wasn't easy at all. What made it more manageable are the good support system that I had around me. They're all family members that were contacting us at any point in day. Friends, whether they were really close by or people I hadn't talked to for a while. And heck, even the people I became friends with and still are friends with over my gym. I mean, everyone was so supportive with everything, and they understood kind of my mindset. Well, not necessarily understood my mindset, but they understood at least the situation, and they were there to lend their support. It made things more manageable just to kind of go through and just understand, like, okay, this is tough, but there's a reason why you're doing this now. There always was, but now there's even more of a reason. So coming back, I think I took about 9-ish days off where I didn't necessarily leave the house. I didn't train between the hospital and coming back home. And that first session back, while I was able to do something that I hadn't done before in terms of squatting for a significant amount of weight for reps, I felt it immediately. I think I was more focused on the emotion of it and the adrenaline versus how my body felt. But as time progressed, I was able to get back into physically a groove where I was like, okay, things are progressing and things are moving the way I want them to. And so from that perspective, I felt good, but I always had something that was pouring in the back of my mind, like, we know what we're doing this for at this point now. The mission has shifted. We stopped caring about the 500-pound deadlift a long time ago. We just want to make sure that we just give every little thing to this. One little thing. And it's done day by day. And we will leave it all on the platform by the time we get there. So I think when everything happened, it was about 12 weeks out, and I came back around 10 to 9 weeks out from competition. And that prep was just, at that point, prep was different. My coach was very kind and understood everything that was going on, and we worked together, and we just hammered everything that we could. I didn't ask for any excuses. I didn't ask for anything to be taken out. I said, let's just go for it. And I want to just put everything I got into this. So it was losing your son is tough, but kind of having the athlete mindset, you kind of just, not necessarily, you don't brush it to the side, you use that as a galvanizing force to do what you're able to do. And so that's what prep was. He was a galvanizing force. Every single session, every single rep, every single time I thought of myself, I just feel something in the back of my mind, keep pushing. And god dang it, did we keep pushing. So, prep, like I said, when we were talking about prep after everything happened, it was, let's just communicate. Let's figure out how you feel. Let's figure out where we want to be at, and let's kind of work with what we have in terms of numbers, because there were goals that I had, but I also wanted to come out of the meet as healthy as I possibly could. Sure, if I felt great that day, in terms of adrenaline, we would go, energy, we would go for it. But talking to my coach leading up to the meet, I was saying, okay, I feel good this day. Let's see, how do you want to maybe push the envelope here? Or maybe I don't feel good another day. Let's just dial it back. And it's a lot of sacrifice trying to prep for a powerlifting competition, especially for as long as I did. I think prepping 20 weeks out is not necessarily the most ideal, but at that point we were about 10 weeks out, and I just I understood where my body was, and I didn't know whether or not I wanted to kind of continue to push beyond the envelope. I wanted to, what we say, stay in the pocket as much as I possibly could, but still push myself enough that I could still make progress. And I saw significant things on my squat that I liked, and my deadlift, while it is my strongest lift, it was like one of those things where I wanted to make sure that I don't hurt myself in the process of trying to chase a number. And that's, we said, okay, let's just take it easy, but let's continue to build. And that's what we did throughout prep. We just kept slowly building. And especially at this point where we knew that taking a week wasn't ideal, but we just made it work. And so we go into finish up the 9-week prep, and we go into meet day. Meet day. I got a lot of emotions going on that the day before. I mean, I usually don't sleep well before any big event, whether it's flying, competing, Christmas. Merry Christmas, everybody, by the way. And I woke up around like 3:30 that morning. I was technically, all lifting started at 9, and I'm just trying to get food and everything in my system. And the one thing that really concerned me that day, because all throughout prep I was weighing around 179, close to 180. Even after like eating a good meal and whatnot, I think I weighed that morning around like 175. And to see weight drop like that when you were consistently at one point, just makes your mind think, what in God's name is happening right now? Stress. And I figured that would be the case, but we prepared for that. I had 2 meals ready to go. I had all my electrolytes and stuff from BPN that I use for my supplements. Had a couple energy drinks ready to go as well, just so I could refuel and recomp my body as much as I possibly could. And so we arrived at Madtree around like 6:30 that morning, give or take. We go wait around so we can get our equipment checked. I go weigh in. I'm weighing at about, I looked at this very recently, weighed in about 80.85 kilograms, which is about, I believe, 177, give or take. I can't do kilogram math right now, but it's pretty close. And so I'm pretty happy with that. I'm recomping and everything's going fine. And so we're just waiting around. That's the big thing with powerlifting meets. You're sitting around, especially if you're waiting in the morning. If you get the afternoon session, you're kind of lucky. You can kind of sleep in a little bit, get there when you need to, and whatever. But getting close to 9 o'clock, we're like, okay, put on the singlet, start warming up, let's get ready to go, because we got things we want to hit. And to tell you the truth, you'll see this, like the warm-up room was packed. Like, to be fair, last year's meet only had 1 platform. This year we had 2 platforms with up to 100 lifters. We only had 93 compete, but it was up to 100 lifters. And so the morning meet was just insane. First of all, before you even get into the actual lifts, the environment at Madtree was just something to behold. Just lots of energy from the lifters, the crowd, just seeing people just be strong as heck. It's amazing. And I just remember at that point, I stopped thinking about the nerves. I was just like, this is exciting as hell. Let's just warm up and let's just see what we got. And so first, we are the first person in our flight to go, because we already knew that our openers were probably the lightest of our flight, which is okay. I'm worried about competing against myself and doing the best that I can. And so first squat attempt, we actually opened up at 314. It was kind of like we're opening where we basically left off. First attempt on 314, get on the bar, and I'm getting ready to lift and squat, just waiting for the squat command. Also learned to lock out my knees this time compared to the first meet. Squatted, and it moved like butter. I felt pretty good. Also, I probably wasn't thinking at that point, because the only thing I hear was a command from the head ref, and I'm just like, okay, cool, we're out of here. I see the 3 white lights, and I think we're just off to the races at that point. The second squat attempt, this is where I got hit with depth issues at my last meet. And I'm like, okay, this is what we spent all this time correcting. And so 330, I get called up again, get the squat command. And this one moved a little slower than the first attempt, but we still moved it and got it up. And hey, we got 3 white lights again. So we're like, okay, cool. We're 2 for 2 on the day. What do we want to do here? And in my mind, I'm like, okay, I can play a super conservative right now. I can go 341 in terms of pounds, or do I want to go for a big PR? Because that either one would have been a PR for me. And I'm thinking to myself, you know what? Worst thing's gonna happen is we just gonna fail, and then we'll move on to bench. I got spirals to help me. That's fine. Let's go for 352. Why not? And standing on a platform where you see your PR, but you never even try to touch in the gym, it's scary. But when you squat that much weight, you have 2 choices. You're either gonna stand up or you're gonna basically fall back down. And at that point, once I got the squat command and I went down, I'm like, look, I'm really thinking mid squat. All right, we're gonna stand this bad boy back up. We got the strength for it. You gotta believe. And I really felt so much adrenaline and energy from the people that were supporting me in person and through the live stream. I'm like, let's just do this. So I'm thinking about this literally mid lift, and you can see at kind of my body getting to the point where it's like could go one way, could go another way. Well, when I stood up, I was like, oh shit, we actually just did it. This is awesome. And I racked it. I'm glad I didn't like rack it too early. That's the one thing that would happen if I was just full of adrenaline. And I obviously racked it, looked back at the judges, and I was like, yes, I got this, cool. So big squat PR for that day, and I was just super thrilled. And move on to the bench, I made a mistake. I made this mistake back on the first meet, made the same mistake again. The mistake was not warming up enough for bench. I knew what my PR was at that point. It was 231 pounds in terms of bench pressing. And the problem that I had in the first meet and this meet is that I didn't warm up enough. And that's because I didn't judge timing correctly. So what happened in the warm-up room was they were basically saying, okay, we gotta go, because I'm making the assumption that both platforms are gonna go to the bench at the same time. Whereas the second platform was still doing squats, and the first, my platform was already on bench. And so instead of me warming up properly, whether it's doing the bar, 135, 185, I went straight to 185 and just tried to and lifted that back in the back room. And I'm like, okay, cool. I feel like I can do that. We can move. So we get to my first attempt on bench, which was 220, which should have been my second attempt back in May. I actually got the command from the head judge. Start, move fine coming down, press, move fine coming up, and then rack. I was like, cool, we got that. And then at that point, I'm like, okay, let's hit the PR, my current PR that I've already hit twice in the last couple of weeks in the gym. So we try to go for 231 on the second attempt. I think with this attempt, I knew immediately when something went wrong, because I went to start and I brought it down to my chest. And when I went to press, my elbows flared out and I felt my delts roll back. And at that point, I immediately told the sparrers to take it to avoid injury, because I knew better about that. And then with powerlifting, you can't go lower in the weight. You either have to take the weight that you missed, or you have to go back, or you have to go up. And we already made the decision just to go retake the weight. So I tried to take that again. And this time just focus on my cues to make sure that I can at least pull this off in competition in terms of my current PR. And with this attempt, this one was technically fine in terms of my leg drive, my positioning, everything was good. But the problem that I felt immediately was my lower back, which happened at the first meet. I felt the tweak to the point where I was like, we're going to cut it there. I'd rather save myself for deadlifts, and we'll just call it there. But it's still a meet PR. I still raised it up by 11 pounds. So again, small victories in this. I can't complain. Now, deadlifts are my favorite lift out of powerlifting competitions. It's my strongest. It's where I know I can generate the most power. It's where I feel like everything just moves perfectly for me. And with this, I love having a good support system there too, just to kind of cheer me on. Because every attempt that I did during this, you can see me just like trying to get a little bit of like hype noise and everything to get me going too. And so my first lift, like I said before, I started off where I left off. So my PR back in May was 441. I started off with 441 in terms of pounds, 200 kilograms. And that moved once it got off the ground. It seems a little bit off because it doesn't move initially when I go to pull, but once it got off the ground, it moved pretty fast. And I got the down command, and I already knew I had it, so I was just like, okay, let's go back and let's just figure out what we want to do next. I already had a plan in mind, and so I said, okay, let's go for 215 kilograms, which is 473 pounds. That would be for my current PR at that point in the gym, that would have been about a 9 or 10 pound PR. And I'm like, cool, let's go ahead and do that. So my second attempt, still trying to get hyped up for that, because I'm thinking to myself, we're in uncharted territories now. This is something that we have yet to do, and day of competition, anything can go wrong. But I'm not thinking about the wrong part of it. I'm thinking about, let's lift this daggone thing up and let's put it back down. So this one here, I pulled it, it moved slower, and I could tell it moved slower, but the fact that it moved decent enough where I was able to get it up, control it, it was kind of like a nice little like, all right, cool, we got this. But I also understood my strength for that day, and I said, as much as it would have been nice to go for a 500 pound deadlift, it would have been about 501.5. I knew better. I knew better to save myself for that for another day, where we know we can get it much easier. And I decided that we should go for 220 kilograms, which would have been 485 pounds. This deadlift here, what's going through my mind at this point is that I am scared. I am nervous. I'm thinking to myself, like, in the gym, this would be like 4 red plates on each side. I haven't even tried to do that. But I'm like, worst thing that happens is it doesn't go up. I didn't worry about my grip. My grip has been excellent throughout this entire prep. Only thing that's going to stop me is my strength. And so I'm still, at this point, I'm really diving into every little bit of energy I have left. And I'm like I said, when I say I'm getting the crowd involved, I'm telling them, like, keep yelling at me. I need to feel this energy. And I go to set up, and I am getting ready to pull. I'm trying to like make sure I extend like my hamstrings to make sure that there's no tightness anywhere, and I can just like brace, and everything will just pull all at once. And when I was pulling, I was thinking to myself, we're just gonna just pull. We're gonna pull. And I'm getting up my shins. I get to my thighs, and I don't think about this at the time, because I'm thinking to myself, like, just pull the daggone thing, bring your hips through, and we got this. I didn't see this until after the clip, after the stream was pretty much done for my session. But you'll see me kind of like move forward in terms of like me trying to bring my hips. And what that happened was it brings my legs forward, which basically means I'm kind of using my legs to let the bar ride up and support. I didn't realize it. I thought it was good. This is the way that my typical movement is. But I get it up there and I'm like, oh, this is beautiful. I love the fact that I was able to pull 485 in a competition. I get a down command, and I'm looking back at the judge, like, I'm looking back at the judge's like panel, and I'm like, okay, we got it. 2 red lights. man, it's funny what you think about in that moment where you're thinking like you got everything moves perfectly, and somehow it doesn't. And sometimes you see things through rose-tinted glasses. But when you come back to look at it and you see some of the things that could be corrected, you're like, you can't argue with it. And I look at it now, I've looked at it about 20, 30, maybe 40 times, and I'm like, judges got it right. I didn't get it. But it taught me a few things about the fact that it wasn't a strength issue. At that point, it's about a technique thing. But all in all, for a total on the day, in terms of pounds, we did reach one goal that we had in mind. We finally hit the 1,000-pound total mark. We actually had 1,047 pounds in terms of all of our best lifts, which was phenomenal. Hit 2 PRs that day, 3 if you want to count the unofficial one. And it was a great day. I couldn't be more happy with everything that I put into that day. Given how, when we started prep, things that we changed up, everything that happened during the prep, the emotions that went into this, everything was just perfect. And it wasn't like obviously a perfect day, but it was just perfect for me. And I look back at it, and I said this on Instagram, I'm like, the word that I really use for a lot of this stuff is I'm grateful. I'm grateful to have the opportunity to just be able to train, be able to compete with people that are strong and even stronger than me because they push me to be my best. I'm grateful for my community that is always supporting me day in and day out. It's a wonderful thing to have, and for them to be able to see me kind of on a different stage and just giving them my all, it truly means a lot to me. And I couldn't have asked for a better meet day. I couldn't ask for a better meet prep, better coach to guide me through, who is still guiding me through today. Like I said, a superb community and support system that's around me, and it's amazing. And I'm just super happy with the way everything turned out. And if there's like one thing that what I take away from all of this is that I started this powerlifting journey back in 2020 when this gym where I'm sitting at right now only had about 300 pounds of weight in terms of barbell weight. And then obviously I have other things that can help me out. At the time when I started my powerlifting journey, I was 27. My PRs at that point were I could barely squat 225. I could barely bench 185. I can barely deadlift 205. I'm 29 now, and I'm squatting over 350 pounds. I can bench press over 225, and I can almost deadlift 500. To me, the journey has been super fruitful because it's shown me a different side of myself that I never thought was possible. That because no matter how late that you start, you can still do things that if you set your mind to it, you're consistent, you're able to give everything that you have, you'll be surprised at what you're able to accomplish. Because now when I look at these numbers, I'm thinking to myself, let's go higher. Let's continue to strive for more. Whereas in the past, if I looked at anything close to these numbers, I would have been scared. But the consistency, the day in, day out training, and just building a belief in myself and having the community that's around me supporting me, it's gone a long way. And so for anyone that is looking for their own journey, whether it's even starting in powerlifting, you're looking to run a 5K, 10K, half marathon, or if you're not into fitness or you want to do things that just make you happy, just start today. Because you'll be surprised at what you are able to accomplish once you start building day by day and you're consistent with it. Because I was surprised about my journey, and I couldn't be more grateful for it.